Mass Effect Legendary Edition has brought an iconic aging franchise into the modern era, and as much as I absolutely love this trilogy of games, they are starting to show their age somewhat. There are some cracks that can be papered over, some wrinkles that can be given a facelift. Legendary Edition features new updated textures to help make the games look their best, and it doesn't feature as many gratuitous booty shots that distract from serious emotional moments. You know what I mean. Alas, one thing that the Legendary Edition can't fix is baked into the trilogy's entire core: the outdated and somewhat clunky choice and morality system. For a series that is sold on its choose-your-own-adventure plot, the Mass Effect trilogy really doesn't like you to actually choose for yourself. To be honest, the Paragon-Renegade system already felt out of place when Mass Effect first debuted in 2007. It was a vestigial leftover, dangling limply on the side of the game, that had already evolved past such a simple morality system. BioWare's first big hit, and I mean big, not Baldur's Gate big, was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This was the game that took the studio from being cool among the RPG crowd to being Game of the Year contenders. Where previous BioWare RPGs had stuck to the D&D alignment system, good versus evil, lawful versus chaotic, KOTOR went with a very simple light versus dark morality paradigm. Nice and simple, reflecting the traditional Star Wars dynamic. Luke Skywalker never cares about the legality of blowing up the Death Star, so it makes sense that nobody in KOTOR cares whether something is illegal. Do good things, you get light side points. Do bad things, you get dark side points. Nice and simple. If you constantly do bad stuff, you get all ugly like Rey's granddaddy, but it's cheaper to use the cool force powers like lightning and choke. If you're always nice to people, you get to stay pretty, but it's more costly to use the good force powers. Instead you get a discount on stun droid? Whoa. So KOTOR's morality system reflects the traditional Sith-Jedi dichotomy, and it does so rather well. The Sith path is quicker, easier, more seductive. The Jedi way involves Zen meditation and not much else. This Star Wars-based morality system is incredibly simple and one-dimensional. In fact, in making Knights of the Old Republic 2, Obsidian Entertainment structured the entire game around pointing out just how flimsy the entire idea of light versus dark really is. At one point, if you give a few credits to a beggar, your Obi-Wan Kenobi stand-in character Kreia will yell at you. Well done, you showed that guy a little kindness, and made him a target for literally every other starving, desperate person on this crummy planet. Of course, if you don't give the beggar any credits, Kreia will yell at you anyway for being a jerk and ignoring his suffering. The real moral of the story appears to be, some people will get mad no matter what you say, which is a useful lesson to learn while you're on YouTube. So by the time BioWare's Mass Effect rolls around, the gaming industry, and even the franchise that inspired the Paragon-Renegade system, has already grown beyond the point of good versus evil moral choices. What's more, good versus evil doesn't really make sense in Mass Effect, since no matter what you do, you're still trying to save humanity, and every other organic species in the galaxy, from the terrifying Toaster Uprising. Whichever action you take is justified in the face of galactic annihilation. At least that's what the game tries to convince you. So Paragon vs Renegade becomes a battle of polite versus rude. Considering that every decision is framed against the backdrop of potential mass extinction, nobody can really give you too much grief for upsetting a jellyfish. I think part of the reason why, spoiler alert, so many people were disappointed by the ending of Mass Effect 3 is that the entire morality system builds up each of your choices, makes it seem like they're going somewhere, when they're ultimately meaningless in the face of the big bad that's coming to blow everything up. It doesn't matter whether you punch a reporter, or save the council, or cure the genophage. The way the game is structured, these decisions are small potatoes in the face of the bigger, somewhat more binary central conflict of meat sacks versus Casio calculators that drives the larger narrative. What's more, if you want to do your very best job at saving the universe, you'll need to be persuasive, and that means sticking to either an all-Paragon or all-Renegade playthrough. There's persuasion bonuses attached to being either really polite or really rude, and if you deviate from one of these two binaries too much, you lose some dialogue options. Couple this with the fact that BioWare's patented dialogue wheel doesn't let you read Commander Shepard's exact words before you select an option, and you'll find yourself glibly thumbing to either the nice or naughty dialogue option each time without much thought. You lose the freedom of choice that these games are supposed to encourage. I think I should pause for a second and point out again that I absolutely love these games. I'm not a hater, I swear, I just recognise where there's room for improvement. In fact, I'd say that at least someone at BioWare agrees with me, because Mass Effect Andromeda, for all its flaws, ditches the binary morality system altogether, no longer locking friendly dialogue choices away from people who haven't earned them by being polite enough. Honestly though, what works even better is, well, just about anything that Obsidian Entertainment has done. The makers of KOTOR 2 are still the champions of the more nuanced moral choices. The Outer Worlds is very much the anti-Mass Effect. It's a planet-hopping space opera, but instead of being Space Jesus, you're instead just some hapless nobody who ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. The scope is a lot smaller, and herein lies the difference. You're ostensibly still trying to save people, if you want to, but your big fight isn't against robotic eldritch horrors, it's against regular human beings and the systems and the corporations they've built. The villains of the piece aren't robot gods, they're boardroom executives. And suddenly that makes every choice in the game feel much more potent, much more necessary. It actually matters whether you choose to save someone or not, because they're not just going to be immediately swallowed up by a giant monster. I mean, that depends on the planet. Early on in the game, you're given a choice between shutting off the power for a bunch of job deserters who just want freedom, or shutting off the power for the cannery where they used to work, and where plenty of honest, normal people are still working hard to try and live their lives. It's not a simple matter of good versus evil, or even polite versus rude. You're not deciding between kicking a puppy or paying its college tuition. The choice is, which group of strangers do you save, and which do you ruin, considering that neither of them really deserve to suffer? It's a far more nuanced decision, and it makes it feel like much more of a moral quandary than simply deciding how polite you're going to be during the robot apocalypse. Moral decisions in games are better when there's no clear answer. Now, don't get me wrong, Mass Effect Legendary Edition is a lot of fun. There's some great stuff in these games, I absolutely love them to death. But just as I play these games and notice the dodgy, awkward, stiff character models as they bump and grind during romance cutscenes, I also notice the dodgy, awkward, stiff decision-making, or lack thereof, that's going on under the surface. When we get another Mass Effect, if we get another Mass Effect, I'm not holding my breath until I've seen more than some pretty concept art, I hope that the writers can find a way to make choices feel more meaningful, in part by learning from the ways that the original trilogy didn't quite stick the landing, like a Mako stuck on its back in the middle of a fight with a Thresher Maw. Anyway, I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favourite channel on YouTube. Be sure to head into the comments section and tell me why I'm wrong. Spare no detail, I'm a glutton for punishment. I should go.